It's a dog sitting by the porch there, or by the stoop. Typically you pull up to that property, you wouldn't get out of the car. You'd be basically stuck viewing the property from the car, and probably miss out on some things that you need to see. With our process, the dog didn't even know we were there. We were able to gather the information we needed and get around that property and do everything we needed to do with very little liability risk. There was not an issue with that appraiser or that property owner being put in a bad situation because of the dog being there. All right, this is an example. These two pictures are the same picture. They're just a zoomed view. And this really shows how far of that zoom you can get. The right side is your fully extended view, and it gives you a good overall view of that property. You can see it's a well-maintained property. They have nice landscaping. You can see the garage, the driveway. And then when you zoom in, you can see the specific characteristics of that dwelling that you need to see to make a good decision. You can see that vaulted ceiling window up there. You can see that basement window. You can see that heat pump. Everything that you need to see. And this is, again, just one photograph that we have for this property, when we usually have 5 to 10 that we can circle that property, get around it, and look at everything we need to see. Well, this is an example of the new construction. A lot of times we have a question asked, what do you do about a new house or a building permit? When somebody builds a new house and your GIS information or your Google Earth information doesn't have the most up to date. Well, this is a software called Zone Deploy that we use. We send our UAV pilot out, and on the right side, those are the new houses that we overlay into the GIS. And what he does is he goes out and he flies a grid pattern with his UAV, and it takes a lot of pictures and then he stitches them together to give you that one solid image. So really that's a lot of pictures stitched together, and that gives us the ability to go in and measure and do all the things that we need to do. As you can see on this one, I'll show you another one after this where it shows where we do the measurement with the stitched image. This is the side image. On top of the stitched photographs that he gives us the side angle views to where we can get all the information we need for our new construction, such as where the porches are located, where the bump outs are for additions, decks, all the things that are coming off of that property or that building that we need to draw into that sketch to get into the camera system. And on the right hand side, you can see that he didn't have any problem filling out his new construction form and picking that house up brand new. This is a video showing us measuring the property. Now, if you can see, you can see that heat pump. You can see the detail and the resolution so good. You can see the fan in the heat pump. You can see the tractor. You can see the grill on the deck, the satellite dish. And then we use this video to show the ability for us to measure and how precise our measurements can be due to the fact that we can zoom in so close. And on the left side, what you can't see is those measurements popping up, those dimensions popping up for us to know what size it is. We wanted to give you that zoomed in view so you can see what we're looking at when we zoom all the way in to measure. All right, here's another video. This is what our appraiser sees when we first send them a map to work. This is an overlay of a map in Patrick County, and you can see the boundaries. It's overlaid into a Google Earth map that we created. And then all those icons that you see are where the picture was taken from the UAV. So it shows our appraiser which angles and which images that he has to choose from to view that property. And then he can go in and make a decision on what he wants to look at. If he wants to look at the front of the house, the back of the house. And he really gives him an overview of that property initially to start his process of appraising that property. He gets to know where the boundaries are. He can see where the improvements are located. And then when he starts looking at the side angle images, he has a good understanding of what he's working with when he moves on to the next step. This is the exact same property that we just showed you that we zoomed in on. And these are the images that we took. And as you can see on this property doesn't need walk around with the door on the doorknob. You can see everything you need to see from these images if everything is correct on the property record card. Now, if it wasn't correct, we would flag it and go out on foot and pick up whatever needs to be picked up. But as far as we can tell, this property, and we looked at the property record card, everything was there. You had the pool, you can zoom in, you can see the story height, you can see it in the top left corner, the area above the garage, you can see the detached garage. Everything that you need to see for that property is right there for you to see, and there's really no need to spend the time and resources to go knock on that door. And then this is the same exact property again, and we're just showing the ability to measure that. The first video we showed measuring was of new construction. This is an existing building, and this is the property record card where we verify those measurements. As you can see on the back side of that property, it's 64 feet, and we added up the front sections just to show that it adds up to the 64 feet that we pulled on that on the Google Earth image to make sure that the measurements are right, and it's that quick to verify that square footage of that building. And here's a video showing us editing a property record card. Typically what you have is an appraiser going out, and they print all these paper copies of property record cards that have to be stored, they have to be kept in order. So they're taking this bulky map out to the field with a pen and paper. Handwriting becomes an issue. There's all these things that have to go into checking out a map. And the way that we're doing it, when you send this map to data entry, there's no question what you meant when you typed that in there. There's no handwriting issues. And then another part of it is with your electronic copy, if data entry has a question for us, if the appraiser values this property and they're trying to get into the camera system and there's an issue and they want to ask a question, they can take a snippet of this property record card, email it right to us, get their question answered while they continue to work, and it's much more efficient than trying to pile up papers in an office and have the appraiser come in and physically go through questions while they're keyed into the system. So it's just a very neat, clean way to do it, and it's more efficient than a paper bill. And the storage, not having to store. When you store this, you're going to have an external hard drive with all your property records, all your data stored in one place, rather than having to file it away, put paper in places, print paper, all the things that come with a paper copy. We included this slide to show a lot of times people who aren't in the appraisal industry don't know what it takes to get the appraisal licenses and how difficult it is. The certified general is the one that we have highlighted with the red arrows. That's the highest license level that's offered in the state of Virginia. We had 5 certified generals working with us, and in 2019 you can see that the pass rate was 54%. So in the country, out of 433 people that took the exam, only 234 passed it the first time. So we're proud of the people that in our company that have that. We really want to showcase the fact that it's difficult to get it, and it's a big accomplishment. This slide just illustrates the technology that we use. We think that in this profession, technology is a big part of it. It makes our job easier, it makes it more efficient, and it makes it cheaper. And that's one thing that we really feel like sets us apart, is our ability to implement technology into our process and make things more affordable when we come to a county and put a bid. And we can come in at a lot lower rate than a lot of other companies because of the ability for us to use the technology and the way we've implemented it and worked to get things to fit together in our process, and we're really proud of that. And finally, we just want you to challenge our price. We feel like that our price is very competitive for what you get. Like we said, most companies are going to bring you 1 to 2 pictures of the primary residence or primary building on the property. We're going to bring you an image, multiple images of every improvement on every property. We're able to provide you with appraisal services while also giving you all that information. So you're going to have a ton of information, a ton of data to support our opinion of value, to go back to refer to if you have a citizen who wants to know how we came up with this or why we did this. You're going to have all that information that you can pull up anytime and go back and refer to it, and it's at a really, really reasonable price. That's the end of our presentation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Does the board have any questions for Mr. Cole right now?
You guys ever run across something that you had to maybe report to the authorities during this? You understand?
Yeah, we have. I haven't experienced that using the UAV, but I've experienced that on the ground before, where it was maybe a situation that I know that was being mistreated or something. So we've run into that, but it's been very limited.
Okay.
Mr. Spears, let's call.
Okay, a couple of questions. When you completed your survey of the property, will you let the homeowner know, or do they have to wait until the end of the whole assessment?
What we hope to do is send out a letter requesting information from them about the interior of the property. We've done that in Patrick County with the commercial and industrial properties. That notifies them that we're out. We also put an ad out in the local paper when we also it's been discussed at the Board of Supervisors meeting. So there's multiple ways that they know that we're out. And then our UAV pilot also has signs on his vehicle that has county reassessment, and they have the ability to approach him. He has cards to give them. So there's multiple ways for them to reach out to us if they have questions or concerns and go over the property.
I just know with people knocking on the door, I've had them knock on my door the last couple of reassessments, and you know that they're actually on your property. So I don't know if that might cause some names for some of the people in my district, if they don't go, they'll come back and say, we never had anyone knock on our door kind of thing. That's, just kind of.
That's the best part about it. We're gonna have the proof that we were out there. We're gonna have multiple images of the property, and we'll be able to show them what we looked at and how we came up with it. And also, what we did in Patrick is we sent updates weekly to the sheriff's department and the county administrator, letting them know which area of the county we're working in this week. So that way, if they want to put it out for public comment, anybody that wants us to come to their property or discuss their property with them, we'd be more than happy to do it.
That'd be a good idea. The other thing, do you contract out for your UAV?
No, we've got a pilot. He's got 3 certifications, and he graduated from Liberty.
Do you know what kind of equipment he uses?
He uses a what is it?
DJI.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason I'm asking, I've heard rumors that all the data collected since that's a Chinese company, goes back to China. I didn't know if you had heard any of those kind of rumors, or I've always heard, because I've got one of those as well, and that's the first thing I heard when it was gifted to me, that all your data is going back to China. So I just wondered if you guys were aware of that, or if you had any concerns with that.
Is it a Mavic Pro? Mavic Pro 2?
But like I said, I don't know, I've just heard those rumors out there and all that, all the Chinese drones, all the information's going back to China. I didn't know if you had heard that or if people were concerned about that. They say it's probably nothing, but I just think it would be interesting to some people.
Mr. Palmer.
You don't have to name the localities, but just how many other have you done the reassessment for? A handful or a dozen?
4. We've worked. Go ahead.
That's Steve Chastain. We're currently working 3 reassessments. As William mentioned a few times, Patrick County, Virginia, King William County, Virginia, and Essex County, Virginia. We've recently finished 2 building permit projects, one in King George County. That's sort of what we're working on now. We don't have any projects lined up for 2022, so I feel like we can make it a priority.
Follow-up question. I'm not familiar with, I call them drones, UAVs. So what if citizens are upset that you're over there properly flying around? I'm sure that's had to come up in the past.
We would handle it the same way we handle if they're upset that we're on their property on the ground. That's come up a lot in the past, and we usually talk with them about it, go over the information.
You're there to do a job.
And if they absolutely resist us, we do the best we can with the information we have, and it really limits their ability to appeal and go through that process because of the limit they put on our inspection. But technically, it's not illegal for us to fly over top of their property, but in the same sense, you don't want to do anything to upset the public. You want to work with them, and that's what we're here to do. In Patrick County, we've flown every property there, and I think we had three issues of people calling in for the UAV, and we had more people call in while we were working permits on the ground than did for the UAV for the whole job. And so, a lot of times it's such a fast process. It's in and out. It's not a lengthy. He has points set up in different localities of the parts of the county where he goes and goes through the area, works, goes to the next one, goes to the next one. But anytime, for any reason, that a citizen's upset or wants us to talk to them about something, we'd be more than happy to go over and work it out any way we could with them.
Questions from other questions? I have a couple. To follow up on Mr. Palmer's question, which I thought was very good, was in your careers, I know your corporation is fairly unique as far as you as a group, but collectively, can you give us a ballpark of how many county reassessments or city reassessments you all have done in your career?
Over 30. Over 30 combined.
I started
Between the 2 of us.
Yeah, I started right after him, so we're right there together, and we've been all over Virginia and North Carolina. And I've also worked in Pittsylvania County on the private sector with the fee appraisals. I live in Danville, so I'm familiar with the market. I've worked in some neighboring counties, but I've had a lot of experience on the private sector doing fee appraisals for banks and other clients over the years.
I know what you're asking, but I'll ask a question. Does the share of land mass that you will encounter in Pittsylvania County give you any concerns now?
No, I think that's part of the appeal for using UAV is we can cover so much ground with it that it's not something that's limiting to us. It's a plus for us because that's why we can be so cost effective, because we can get out there and cover so much area so fast. I think it was 3.5 months. Our UAV pilot covered all of Patrick County, which is amazing. Steve and I worked that job in 2008, and they had 10 people living in a house going out on foot to work that job at one time. During one part of it, not the whole time, but during one part, it was 10 people living in a house trying to get to every property because it was so much land area.
Based on the number of parcels, I won't limit you to just the corporation now, but in your career, have you worked on projects larger than what you're going to encounter with the parcels in Pittsylvania County? Because we got a lot of land back, not necessarily a lot of parcels.
Yeah, we considered that in our bid for Pittsylvania County. So you would have, roughly 50% vacant land and 50% improved, and that's pretty typical for Virginia County like this. And that was part of our consideration. So, in terms of right at 50,000 parcels that you have here, can't think of a county in Virginia that's quite that size that we've been a part of, but maybe one that had more improved parcels. If that makes sense.
Franklin County is probably the closest that I've worked on as far as the size of Pittsylvania County, and I've worked that on 2 different reassessments over the last decade. So we've covered some large areas independent of working together with this.
One last question. That doesn't matter, honestly, who does the reassessment. They're going to be people that are upset. So at the end, when you start getting feedback, we've always had a process. I guess what I'm asking is, before they start down the legal process, what are y'all's theories and philosophies and approach going to be to abate some of those problems before we have to send them to the zoning board of appeals and everybody else?
In my experience, I found that a lot of the appeals, the public hearings or the administrative appeals to us are more tax-driven questions. We try to separate the tax questions from the value questions up front before we hold those hearings. And a lot of times we can do that over the phone, or possibly if you have an absentee owner that would like to do a video meeting, we can arrange that with the county.
So that brings me back to a really important question. Yeah, I've got to know. So I'm hearing you say that citizens of Pittsylvania County will have the ability to contact you, chat with you online, you have a line where they email in and get answers immediately, a reasonable span of time about their property.
For
and
the
then you
hearing
can talk to them either live over the phone, or they could inquire and you could FaceTime with them, or whatever you're going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. If that's suitable to you and the county, then absolutely we'd be open to doing that.
I think we're all really interested in customer service, and we want to try to improve that as much as possible. So I'm glad to hear that they have that access to you. So it's nice to get all that, as much of that done before you get.
That's part of that income request, and the mailer that we would send out is that's what our goal is to kind of keep from having to get to the hearing process. Let's talk about it prior to the hearing process. Work out some of these that they just want to ask us some questions or us to explain why we did things that we did. And that, in Patrick County and Essex and King William, it's really, sending that mailer out really did that. We've had a lot of feedback, a lot of people call, and a lot of people send that information back. I think I had 600 pages of data, information, and things come back, and with phone numbers and things where we could reach out to them and talk to them. And we spent a good 2 weeks calling property owners, going over their income statements and all the things that they send us. So we're very accessible to the public.
Anybody else got any questions after they answer those?
What do you expect from us, from the county? Space, computers, maps, whatever. What do you expect from us?
I don't think we need any space. We have space close enough to where we wouldn't ask you to give us any space. We would need to work with your IT and GIS department to give us the KML files for their overlays for their parcel boundaries. We would need PDF records of all the property record cards, which if you can print them to a printer, then you can print them to a PDF, and we would give you a flash drive or external drive to put us that on. And then building permits. That's the number one thing, is we would definitely want building permits and a relationship working with the building inspection and the Commissioner Revenue Department, so that we can make sure we didn't have anything fall through the cracks.
So there's no add-ons. I'm making sure there's no financial investment by the county necessary beyond our contract. No. Thank you.
Maya, thank you very much. Good
All right.
presentation.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Have a good evening.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Sir. Oh, and by the way, Connie Houston's here. She managed this process, and she certainly can weigh in on what took place before we got to the stage.
Well, you mentioned presentation on that kind of situation. Thank you, glad to have you with us. Thank you, sir.
Chairman, members of the board, I appreciate the opportunity to once again compete for the opportunity to serve your county. The reassessment project that we're getting ready that you're deciding on is a pretty important function. Some folks would say it's a tax raising function. Some might say it's not. But the true purpose of this function is to try to equalize taxes and to equalize the property tax burden among all property owners.
I know you're comfortable with doing that. Can you give your name and all? We have some.
Certainly. I'm sorry. I'm kind of having a little difficulty getting organized.
That's all right. We got some new folks, so we want to make sure everybody gets.
Certainly. Well, my name is Don Thomas. I apologize for not making that clear. I'm with Wingate Appraisal Service. We're headquartered in Roanoke, and we've enjoyed a long history of serving Pittsylvania County through many reassessments. We've done some mapping work for the county as well, and that's back in the early 80s. So we have been around for a while, and a lot of you folks have no doubt experienced the reassessment that we've participated in. So anyway, back to the description of the project. You're getting ready to make a decision on hiring a firm to do your next reassessment. That's an important decision to make. The first slide that I presented for you here just kind of outlines the size and scope of this project. And we have, as a firm, we've come to know what it takes to make this happen here in Pittsylvania County. You've got a total value of locally assessed real estate somewhere in the neighborhood of $5.4 billion. The number of parcels, somewhere around 50,000. You've got about 5,900 mobile homes. And of course, you're the biggest county in the state with roughly 980 square miles of area. And in between the assessments, we also assist the county in assessing building permits. So there's about 1,000 building permits that we've also been actively assessing in between the assessments. Usually its average is about 1,000 a year. So it gives you an idea of how big the size of this project is. In our firm, we never take anything for granted, but we also know that we need to prepare for a project of this size. So we have, in the case that we are favored in the process, we have reserved adequate resources, personnel resources, and resources to make this happen, much the same as we have in the past. And so I'd like to emphasize that we are positioned to make that happen in a timely fashion, comply with your specifications, and that's a pledge that we make. Our company was founded back in 1962. Harold Wingate was our founder. Harold's no longer with us. He was instrumental in instilling in our company some foundational principles that deal with fairness in administering assessments, attention to detail, service after we finish the project, after we turn in the reassessment book. So Harold was a great mentor to myself, and every day we go about doing our business to try to make him proud. One of the quotes up here: "The true cost of a reassessment project is not known until the project's completed and the contractor's long gone." I've heard Harold say that many times, and so there's a lot of truth in that if you think about it. You know, the ingoing cost of a project isn't always the total cost of a project. So I'd like to advance to the next slide and highlight some of our experience and competencies. We've completed, as a firm, we've completed 194 general reassessments. Now, I wasn't on board for all of those. I've been on board for the last 30 years, though. So we've assessed over the state of Virginia and some of North Carolina about 3.3 million parcels of real estate. We've completed multiple assessments for Pittsylvania County using your current software, and I think that's important. It's worth emphasizing. The software that you have on board right now has an acronym of PAAS. It's Property Assessment Administration, and it's a keystone product that is pretty unique. It's pretty unique in the assessment industry. We've become acquainted with it, and I'm pleased to say that the person that we have tapped for our data entry management position is a county resident, Kathy Shelton. She's been with us for 2 complete reassessments using this software, and she's very competent and complete in what she knows about how the parts of this interact with each other. The last thing on this particular slide highlights that the last 3 reassessments that Wingate has performed for your county have an average assessment to sale ratio of 99.7%. And of all the figures I could have thrown out on slides and presented to you today, why did I figure that was important and significant? That is, for the last 3 reassessments, 2010, 2014, and 2018, the Department of Taxation in Richmond calculates your assessment to sale ratio. And this is an independent, it's not calculated by Wingate, it's dependent, it's calculated by the Department of Tax. And so why is that important? Well, it's 2 reasons. One is the Code of Virginia requires that we assess property at its market value. And in order to do that, we are supposed to assess at 100% of its market value. So the median ratio that the Department of Tax calculates is an indication that we are getting close to our goal of complying with code. It's also a fairness issue. If our tendency is in the assessment ratio is to approach 100%, then we are as fair as possible in administering the real estate tax levy amongst all property owners, or as close as possible. And then there's another item that it dovetails into that's not often talked about, but it's the It's the impact that the assessment ratio has on the properties that are assessed by other institutions. And what I mean by that is the Virginia Department of Taxation has a railroad and pipeline division, and the State Corporation Commission has an assessment responsibility for the electrical utilities, the telecom utilities, and the gas companies. So their properties that are in those types of entities that are assessed by the state, and they follow the same ratio that the assessment comes up with. When you hire someone to do your assessment, if they come up with a favorable ratio, then you, in favorable meaning closer to 100%, then you're getting full advantage of those tax dollars that are available to you from the State Corporation Commission and the Virginia Department of Taxation. And in your county's case, the bottom sentence on that slide, that's about a $3 million figure in your budget that you receive. That's about what you receive from the Public Service Corporation. So when we talk about competency and delivering an appropriate ratio for your product, the reassessed product, that's as important. It's not an unintended consequence, but it's an important aspect of this work. And so our firm is very proud of the ratio, the consistent ratio that we deliver for each of our projects. And if you look on page 24 of our proposal, you'll see our history. And these are numbers that the Department of Taxation has issued after we completed a reassessment. And we're consistently delivering a ratio that's above 95%. So, the next slide deals with, I would say it deals with situational awareness. It's asking the important questions. Sometimes you have to dig into things to get where you need to be. What I mean by that is, when we do, mentioned earlier that we assess your building permits in the interim in between reassessments. And so the question came up some 2 years ago about the Mountain Valley Pipeline. I asked a friend of mine who was working at the Department of Tax, Jason Hughes at the time, and I said, Jason, when do you guys start taxing or assessing the pipeline? And he said, well, it starts to happen when the product starts to flow through it. And I said, well, what happens in the interim? And Jason said, I don't know. So we started digging into it, started asking more questions. We found out that there's case law on the books that allows for this assessment and an interim assessment, if you will, of the locality. So then we went about assisting the county or Pittsylvania County with asking questions to Mountain Valley representatives, and we figured out, well, there's a lot of cost going in there, a lot of dollars being poured into the installation of that pipeline. So over the course of these 2 years, 19 and 18, we figured that by asking these questions, that we were able to get somewhere in the neighborhood of about $250,000 in tax revenue in the interim from Mountain Valley Pipeline that ordinarily, if we had not pursued this, would have just gone unassessed. So hopefully this kind of demonstrates, this is not the only time we've assisted the county in a complex issue like this, but this is an instance where we feel like we continue to prove our worth even after the reassessment's over. So today we've got a little bit different situation than we've had in the past. We've got to respond to a lot of changes, and our industry is no different than anyone else's. We feel like that sometime in the near future we'll hopefully get back to normal. Our company's pretty much been hamstringed because we visit properties, and not many people want to see an assessor today. And so we've got to have, when things start getting back to normal, we've got to have an extra amount of sensitivity about our work when we go to properties. So we're prepared to take whatever measures that make sense to all parties, whether it's the property owner, where we knock at the door and we step back out in the yard instead of conduct our conversations on the porch, or whatever happens to be. We also are aware that there's an advisory opinion from the International Association of Assessing Officers that encourages the assessors to use post-crisis data. Now, what does that mean? None of us really know where the real estate market's going to trend to. So, but the advisory opinion says, don't rely on just what was. Make sure you're dealing with what is after this is all stabilized, or whatever stabilization looks like. So we know we've got to respond to that. And then, we know that the time frame that we may have to accomplish certain milestones in this project may have to be modified just to make it work. But we're prepared to do whatever we need to do. So that's generally some of the points that I wanted to make to you folks today. I don't know if there are any questions, but if there are, I'll be more happy to address them.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions? Donna? You don't get any questions because you've been doing it too long.
Well, I want to, if there are none, I would like to conclude with a couple of remarks. I've never done this before in front of a decision-making body, but we submitted our proposal in January, and since that time, things are different. I mean, things are different. And we get it. Your general fund and your revenues are going to be affected in ways that you probably haven't even anticipated or will see yet. And I know that you've got other options when it comes to doing, hiring somebody to do this work. You've got other options, and we're aware of that. We're aware that some of these options may appear more economical than ours, just because of the going-in price. And the reality of it is, I heard someone say the other day, don't let an immediate problem become an obstacle to a long-term relationship. And in the spirit of that, I would like to offer that our fee that we have in our proposal be subject to negotiation up to $1 a parcel. We'll also waive the photography fee. That's just to make it work. We don't have a huge margin in this work. If you were sitting in my chair and watch the figures, you know what it looks like. But we'd like to replace a vehicle every once in a while. We'll just put a new transmission in and let it go. And we'd like to be able to work with that 13.5% increase in healthcare premiums that we just got delivered this last week. So we'll just find a way to make that work. And in the spirit of trying to keep this going as a relationship that we've come to enjoy, we would like to offer those two items.
Thank you. Certainly appreciate that. Thank you very much for the presentation. Okay, we're down to did we?
At this time, it'd probably be most appropriate to talk economy in closed session.
Okay. All right, we'll move down to potential tax anticipation note resolution discussion. Ms. Vander.
I'm just coming to you today kind of as an FYI, so the information that you had in your board packet is just for your information right now. We are not expecting any kind of action tonight, but we just want you all to be aware that we are closely monitoring our revenues and our expenditures and our upcoming budget to determine what we need to do as a locality to make sure we have proper cash flows and that type of thing. We're pretty early on in that phase, but we are starting to look at different avenues that we could possibly tap into. We have talked to our financial advisors, and basically what they're proposing at this point is perhaps working with our bank, our Citizens Bank, to see if they would be open to a line of credit. And right now, that is probably going to be our best option. And basically, this would be basically a tax anticipation rate. So basically, we would borrow those funds as a line of credit and would pay those off within a year. And as I said, right now, we don't even know what that amount is. I have been looking at what's coming down from the state. I talked to Tracy Worley. Her estimates just for their state revenue, not counting their sales taxes, right now, their cut is $1.7 million. Statewide, they're saying that the state will probably lose $1 billion statewide. And what that means for localities, since a third of the revenues that are taken in by the state go to localities, a third of that $1 billion would be distributed among all the localities in the state. So that's $330 million. So for us, that's not a great deal of money. Our $180 million budget is roughly funded by $87 million from the state. And of the $87 million, $66 million of that goes to our schools. And so right now we know at least of their $50 million, they'll be cut $1.7 million. So we could look, in the neighborhood of roughly maybe $2 million or a little bit more in state revenue. Then you got your federal revenue, and we don't know how our billing will go this time. Hopefully our citizens will be able to make their tax payments, but that is yet to be known. The bills are at the treasurer's office now, and they have been queued up. They just have not been printed and sent out. Typically, they are sent out the first week of May so that citizens have those 30 days before the due date. So just wanted to make you aware of what you're going to look at. We would not be in a position to borrow said funds until early in the first quarter of FY21 if we do anything. But, that way we'll have a quarter behind us of what's happening. But all of that, of course, is dependent on when the economy starts back. So all of that's iffy right now. But just wanted to let you know what we're working on.
To continue the conversation, some of you remember 2 years ago we got into May and we were down in the $500,000 to $400,000 of available cash, which if it would have gone on a few more weeks, we would have been in jeopardy of missing payroll. We're not in that situation anymore because we've built our fund balance back up some, but we don't know what our citizens' ability to pay will be on June 20th. All we're doing today is making you aware that if we get in a short-term cash crunch, there is an instrument available for us to do very short-term borrowing. And like Kim said, our collateral or our pledge is future tax revenue. We certainly hope we're not going to come back to you in May or June and ask you to pass that resolution, but we want you to make you aware that the tools available to us, so it wouldn't be a surprise if we get you that place.
Well, that's another reason that it's been important for us to control our capital expenditures right now, because it wouldn't make sense for us to make major capital expenditures and then turn around and have to exercise a line of credit. It's going to be costly when we can just defer doing that till we got better clarity of how much money we're going to get reduced from the state to Fed. So we're trying to do everything we can. I talked with Kim and Mr. Spiller and Mr. Hicks and all concerning the issue that we want to be sure if we possibly can, we can avoid having to use a line of credit, because they don't just give you a line of credit for free. So I don't want to spend the county's money if we don't have to in that means. So I'd like to control capital expenditures. So that's all.
Any other questions?
Are we absolutely strapped to use First Citizens?
Oh, no. We were just reaching out to them because they are our current bank, just to see if they would even have an appetite for that. And even now, of course, right now, banks aren't doing anything. Of course, they wouldn't want to lend us any money until they see the future of our local and state revenues. I mean, they'd be crazy to say, sure, we'll give you $2 million, and nobody's able to pay their tax. So the bank just said, they value our relationship and they would certainly like to help us out if at all possible. So, of course, right now, since we don't even have an amount, but certainly we would put that out and we would go with whoever gives us the best deal.
Thank you, Ms. Banger.
Thank you.
All right, staff committee or constitutional officer reports. Do you have any, Mr. Spudman, Mr. Hunt?
No. I will just say that we are planning and talked to our finance chair several times about putting a calendar date out there in May for the finance committee to get together. There are many things the executive team is talking about, and we're just getting the ingredients together. We're going to try to get a half day before we bring it to you. But look for second week of May, something like that, for a finance committee meeting to dig into some of these issues.
Any business meeting discussion items? Don't have any? All right, I entertain the motion that we go into closed session. So moved. You want to read it?
I'll read it, and we have 4 items tonight, and if we don't finish it all in between the business meeting, we can certainly carry it over into the business meeting. First one, the discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, including interviews of bidders or offerers, and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract. Discussion of open session would adversely affect the bargaining position of the board, negotiating strategy of public body. Legal authority, Virginia Code, Section 2.23711A29. Subject matter reassessment, purpose reassessment, contract award discussion. B, discussion concerning prospective business or industry, the expansion of existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made. Legal authority, Virginia Code, Section 2.23711A5. Subject matter, project 10 in a motion. Purpose update on discussion on the expansion of existing businesses. C, discussion, consideration, interviews of prospective candidates for employment, assignment, appointment, promotion, performance, demotion, salaries, discipline, or resignation of specific public officers. Legal authority, Virginia Code Section 2.23711A1. Subject matter, county administrator, county attorney. Purpose, discussion, county administrator, county attorney employment agreements. D, consultation with legal counsel employed retained by public body regarding specific legal matters. Legal authority, Virginia Code Section 2.23711A8. Subject matter, personnel complaint letter. Purposes, consultation with legal counsel, provision of legal advice.
Okay, got a motion by Mr. Ingram. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Davis. Roll call.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Dudley?
Yes.
Mr. Farmer?
Yes.
Mr. Ingram?
Yes.
Dr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.